Well, drinking my midday coffee, overlooking the mountains on the back porch. As usual, thinking about life, what I shouldn't be doing, what I've done, what I shouldn't have done, what I want to do, what I don't know I should do. Sometimes it's just foggy and we don't see clearly what the answer is. You know, I've never been a wealthy man, but praise to what it is. I've never been in debt since many decades, since I first made my music demos for the Atlantic Records, and got a little behind the eight ball there when I was very young in the 20s, but got out of that working in New York City, the day job. Since then, just paid the bills, worked hard, and I had to sell some guitars in hard times, sell some of my favorite guitars, guitars to pay the bills. You get kids, grandkids, but since the war started here, October 7th, terrible massacre here. I think the major problem we're having here in Israel is we can't stomach it up to keep showing. We had to see the images live because the Hamas, they had streamed some of it on their Facebook pages, and unfortunately we had to watch it the next few days. It was all in the news, but because of the honor to the families, we don't want the families to keep going through that. And the families don't, even if the Israeli intelligence or army or government says, well, we have to have people understand what went on, a lot of people, they don't agree. So whereas the people in Gaza, everybody knows by now, they're making up Hollywood images plus the terrible images that happened from war. But from the last 100 years, those Palestinian people have suffered because they start war and rely on war and are ingrained in a lifestyle of revenge and dreaming of wiping out all the Jewish people in Israel. And now with the Hamas, they dream of wiping out America, and they just say that Israel... I posted the video so you could see it today, from them speaking it from their own mouths. But it's been very hard here. I haven't, because of family in the army and stuff and other reasons, I haven't been able to leave Israel, where most of my touring and most of my whole life that I had written the music for is geared towards mostly, Christian audiences in America, and so I haven't been able to leave on tour, and so by miracle I've been paying the bills. But since the Iranian thing started, so many shows got canceled, and then people haven't been able to organize here, and it's rough. So I've never really been in this I've learned many years that whatever challenge it is, whether it's child's health problems, whether it's the nervousness of having to go into the bomb shelter, and so many other challenges, the financial thing, even though I know it's a reality, that I don't laugh at it irresponsibly, I never let it never let it get inside me, because I know money comes, money goes. You don't get buried with the cent. And you got to feed your kids and do what you can so they don't have to take care of you when you're old. But this is the most unclear and most challenging I've had it. I've been wanting to release this album that I started before the Iranian war, and got a few of the songs recorded, mixed, and then I just don't have any money now to finish it and release it the way it needs to be. But I know that's going to come too, and I just want to bless everybody. I know some friends. There's a famous story that I really like, and I'll tell you, as you all know, my thing, it's always been the same thing. People that get confused by my haircut. My daughters gave me a haircut 5 or 6 years ago because they said my hair just looked too long. And so when they cut my hair, though I used to just put my hat on because the hair was just so big and messy that just with the hat on or a ponytail, so people got a little bit confused, But really, my whole thing has been that there's a lot of wisdom in the Holy Land, whether it's, the deep teachings of the Bible, if it's Hasidic teachings or the Kabbalah or Christian mysticism. Before I got here, I was from college. I got addicted to the Zen Buddhism, where I was forced to study Skidmore College, where I majored in music 4 years. It was a liberal arts college. I took Japanese religion, and I really got deep into the Buddha. So while everyone in my last 2 years, everybody was out wild partying, and I was kind of like in the woods or in my room teaching the Buddha, figuring out how that works with playing rock and roll on the stage and blues music. And then as I started getting into my music career, looking for how to combine that. I really liked the Hasidic teachings had some really good ways of this out of the world, in the world combination. And eventually I went deep into that, wanting to experience the divine, and finally got in Israel many years, learning a teaching which was called Itbonenut. Itbonenut is something in prayer where you're using all the words that you say every day in prayer, kind of like a mantra concept, a meditation concept, to just break away from all the things. I remember I was living in one of these neighborhoods that I really kind of liked their idea that it was a very Orthodox Jewish neighborhood, Hasidic oriented. But the people there, every place has its good things and its things that needs to be improved. Whatever we want to say about it, they are fighting back on getting sucked into the whole telephone thing, the social media, computers. There is something there when I would go out and play around the world and come back living there, that it was easier for me to go. I would go early to pray in the synagogue, spend some time studying before some deeply spiritual teachings, then do the prayers, and then in the place in the middle of the prayer, when you're having the silent standing prayer, this practice called Itbonenut, which the founder of the Hasidic movement in the late 1600s, the Baal Shem Tov, say this, he was born then, I guess you would say the teachings really reached their peak in the late 1700s, that God is infinite and our minds are finite. So if you want to have that divine experience, you're going to have to leave the mind behind. You kind of have to use the mind to go beyond the mind. Now, it's a tricky thing because they give the example of the thief as the policeman. And in India, they give an example of, to stir the fire with the wooden thing, and then at the end, you got to throw the wooden stick in also. So I was really focusing on this teaching because I liked a lot of the other things, but I never, from all the deep teachings, I never thought that the words of the Bible or all the other teachings, there was a lot of things that could perhaps help you with your morality, perhaps understanding things about how to interact in this world, because people forget that the actual Torah, the 5 books of Moses, when the Jewish people were entering the land of Israel, this was not just to be a religion. It wasn't. It was the actual law of how to establish the rule amongst people. So it's a very unique concept in terms of considering it a spiritual religion. It was actually, it had everything involved with what to do with the field, what to do with if you have a servant, what to do, every situation. And so although that's kind of like studying important things of how to make society, and it's a good question, the common question would always come up from people who would ask some of the smart leaders, well, is the Torah democracy? Is it communism? Is it socialism? Is it a monarchy? Is it a dictatorship? And the answer would come back, yes. Which was a good answer that I liked. My favorite answer from a big rabbi was yes, meaning that really it was a combination of all these things. There were communal elements to it. There were elements of democracy in it, of this whole liberty and justice for all of each person. There was this concept of a king, a monarchy. There was this judicial system with the Sanhedrin and the 70, head legal advisors. There was this concept of the prophet advising the military, and there was this whole very interesting dynamics that there's things that we can learn from it, and there's also things that we need to learn to leave behind from it that weren't working. But none of that stuff where a lot of the time is put into understanding, they tried to, early on, I pointed out as I took this path coming to Israel, I said, why do you say that these laws were given by God? These laws in the Mishnah and in the Jewish Talmud, they're not given by God. These are the rabbi's opinions on how to translate words that who knows who heard them. And at the end, it's the whole discussion is what was actually heard from God anyway was only the 10 commandments. And of those, there's a disagreement among the rabbis. It was the first 2, and the Jewish people couldn't handle it. My opinion is that all of the times that we hear either Jesus speaking or Abraham or Moses or Muhammad or whoever you want to say, saying they have heard a voice, it's not my opinion, I know. This is an eternal voice. It's not an external voice that all of a sudden I hear chirping over the clouds a voice. It's something eternal that the person is feeling within themselves from their own depth of experience. Now, it could be that some of these people were a little off, and to tell you the truth, there's been plenty of figures throughout history that people thought they were really holy or good people who had convinced people that they had heard divine voices, and these people ended up being wackos. Now, there's other people that they might not have said that they divinely were inspired, but were great people. So people always, so I would say, why don't you say that, this is very important, divinely inspired teachings, but to say that this is the word of God, and to keep these laws is God's will. That's really, you have to really be stuck in a box to think that, and really not really have the knowledge of understanding how many opinions and translations and how politics works within religion in every place where there's politics. As much as I like the Buddha, you get my friends in Sri Lanka that talk about what goes on with the corruption of the Buddhist monks there is insane. And that's not canceling out all the good Buddhist monks. And the same goes whether it's the Vatican or whether it's any mega church, or where it's all the infighting you see from amongst Islam. So to think that politics didn't come into the decisions that were made and what books got put into the Bible, what interpretations got put there, that's, you would have to really be naive to believe that. Now, in concluding that, I always tell people this famous story. It's one of my famous stories that I really like. It's a Buddha story, and my main thing is that, a lot of the teachings from the different paths, the different religions, they're all pointing at similar things. And if we wanted to, it's like dealing with people on our block, on our neighbors. If we want to, we can go all day long and say, well, I don't like that guy because he wears the green sneakers, and I don't like this guy because he wears the red sneakers. I don't like that guy because I see that he goes out drinking with his buddies, and I don't like this guy because he hunts, and I don't like this guy because he likes that football team. We can find endless things. He goes to that church, I go to. If we want to disagree, but if we want to find commonality, we could do it. We could say, wow, he goes to work, he wants to help his family, he's a good husband, whatever. And we could find so many things in common. The world is messed up, and we need more people like myself that are willing to kind of talk out of the box. It's not easy, it's not easy. I don't agree with everything that Jesus did. There's some teachings that I like, but taking upon himself to go there arrogantly, start flipping over tables in the temple, wherever you go today in any institution, to just randomly yourself say, I'm holier than everybody else and I'm going to do this, sometimes I would say it's not always the way. It's not always